Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Toronto Real Estate Vlog. In today's episode, you're going to tag along with me for the showings I had for a downtown Toronto studio unit buyer. Now, of course, this footage you're about to see for today's vlog was not recently recorded. It was recorded more than 2 weeks ago in early January. I always prioritize the actual client, the actual purchaser before I put out any real estate content online with regards to that buyer. And of course, ultimately, always I ask my buyer's consent as well. So that's very important too. But nonetheless, a very fun addition. In today's video, you're gonna see 3 units I showed in downtown, studio units for a buyer of mine from all over downtown, Church Wellesley, Bay Street corridor, all the way to around Yonge and Queen. And as always, during the duration of this video, when you see me show units, I take the time to talk about the market, talk about different buildings, what to look out for, all types of different tidbits while I do the property tours. So before you watch today's vlog, which is once again a downtown Toronto studio buying tour, if you're new to the channel, my name is Sam, a Toronto real estate agent. I do these types of videos. I do, market-oriented videos, property tours for properties I've bought or sold, and all types of other videos. So if you find this informative or enjoyable, subscribe for more, and you can find my contact information in the description box. All right, so here we are in the first unit, and as you can see, I'm not impressed, right? And I think the camera is doing a lot of work in terms of brightening the space up, but in person, this studio unit, this first one we're seeing, is very, very dark, as you guys can see. Mainly having to do with the fact that the view is obstructed. As you see, this building is completely obstructing any natural light that would come into the unit. And this by itself is an issue across the board, regardless of the unit. But it's especially exasperated when you see the unit itself is a studio, right? It's very small. Once again, I'm telling you, this unit does not appear as bright as it is on video in person. And studios already as is, obviously there's exceptions, but 90% studios as is appear small enough. The last thing you really need is a building such as this to obstruct any hope of natural light. There is some open exposure here, but that's very, very minimal. This unit is asking for $499,000, and the biggest value proposition is the location. This is a building right next to Wellesley subway station. And when I say right next, I'm not exaggerating. You literally get out of Wellesley, you take maybe 10 to 15 steps and you're in this building. So the primary value proposition of this unit is the location. Nonetheless, the unit itself, not anything exciting. It's very small too. It's like 310 to 350 square feet, somewhere in that range. And even for tenants, right? Tenants are more comfortable and more flexible, but even tenants who are looking to rent out a studio, they will always opt for a studio that has at least some natural light coming in. Last thing that doesn't help is, as you guys can see from the ceiling, this unit does not have any light fixtures here. So of course, that also makes the matter worse. I must add though, for a studio, the washroom is actually much bigger than some washrooms I've seen for junior 1-bedroom condos, which is unfortunate to say, but I feel like they could have allocated more space to the living area and, overall the entire unit. All right, so here we are in the second unit, and off the bat, I can tell you this is a much, much better unit, especially considering the price discrepancy. It's only a matter of $8,000 to $9,000. The previous unit we were looking at was listed at $499,000 once again. This one is listed at $509,000. Now I'll get to the pricing in a bit, but as you guys can see, it's much larger. It's larger by about 100 square feet, I would say. Furthermore, the view is not obstructed. Now, it's not as if it has like a wonderful city vista-like view, right? It's not completely unobstructed. There's still that building, but it's not that close to the unit. And it allows for a lot of light, once again, to actually bleed into the unit. And yes, ultimately it is a studio, but you have way more space to work with in terms of where to put a bed and how you would like to divide the unit up. And it's not as if they sacrificed anything in terms of the washroom space either. It's smaller than the previous washroom, but for someone who needs a studio, this is adequate enough. In terms of pricing though, they've had a hard time selling this unit for about, I would say, 4 to 5 months. Initially they listed around $520. Now they've brought it all the way down to $509. They're probably going to sell this at $509 in the next month or so, if they are reasonable. But just to give you a contrast in terms of how much prices have fallen, not even since peak market, that's without a question, but in peak of 2023, basically around spring of 2023, which was much lower than spring of 2022. But in spring of 2023, a unit that's exactly like this unit, but on the 27th floor. This is on a lower floor, as you guys can see from the street. A unit that was on the 27th floor sold for $575,000. And it was the same exact unit because it ends with the same exact last two digits, and that didn't have parking. It's not as if that one had parking and this didn't. Look, you never want to be hyper-focused on timing the market. So $575,000 for around 420 square feet, you know, as opposed to if someone comes along and buys this for maybe 490, 500, let's say, you know, obviously it's much more preferable at current prices. And here we are on the balcony of the unit. It is low to the ground, right? It's only in the first 5 stories, and you see that lot over there. That's undoubtedly going to become developed in the coming years, and I'm pretty sure it already has applications on it. I have to check to confirm. Although it is a quieter part of the town, right? It is closer to Bay Street. Bay Street, especially this stretch of Bay Street, is much quieter than, for instance, let's say, even where we were previously at Wellesley, or, you know, a lot of other areas in downtown. I will mention one thing though. On my way out of the unit, we saw the entrance to the patio area. And as you guys can see, this is the patio area, which is, I've never been in this part of the building before, actually. As much as I've been downtown viewing condos for the last 6 years with buyers, you always see something new. There's a lot of buildings. Now, I'll tell you one thing though, when you're buying a unit, and if it's facing the patio, like these units behind me, as you guys can see, or something like these units, as you guys can see, these are way too uncomfortably close to the patio area. Like if people are gonna be hosting events here, especially in the summertime, these units are undoubtedly going to suffer. Even though they have good sound insulation, as I said, and soundproofing in the units, these are just way too close to the patio. I mean, hey, everyone has different things that's important to them. That's one of the things I've figured out, you know, working with buyers all these years, is everyone is different. Everyone has a different set of criteria. So if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother you, but it's gonna impact resale value. All right, guys, so here we are in the last unit of the day. I couldn't film the previous one because we were behind schedule. As always, my clients take priority over you guys, unfortunately. So here we are in the last unit. Now, you've heard me talk about this building quite a bit, which is 197 Yonge. Massey Tower. You've probably heard me talk about it in various videos, but I guess, you know, you might have heard me talk about it in my 197 Yonge Street review, where I did a full review of this building. Go check out that video if you haven't seen it. And, you know, this building's not perfect. It has a lot of pros, it has a lot of cons, and it's not even, you know, I want to say top tier building in downtown, right? It has its faults for sure. But one of the positives it has, undoubtedly, the studio units in this building have the best views I've ever seen. And that's not even just for studios, is across all condo types. Take a look at this view right here. I mean, that is really, really nice, right? Really, really nice. And of course, you know, the layout is on the smaller side, right? This is still bigger than the first one we saw, believe it or not. But just compare and contrast between the first one we saw. Same type of size, but just how much brighter, how much better it is. And this is north facing, by the way. Imagine if this unit was south facing. In terms of layout though, it does leave a lot to be desired. And due to the shape of the building, all the studios or at least all the studios that I have seen in this building are triangular or pie shaped. So, you know, it does lead for a bit of an awkward layout, like this is where the bed would go. However, I've seen units in this building that are studios with as good as a view as this, if not better. I've actually seen units in this building with better views, believe it or not, that are studios, but also have a pretty proper layout. This is on the smaller end for a studio in this building. Still, the layout is much better, I would say, than the first one we saw. And if someone were to remove this desk here, you know, obviously keep this peninsula, but remove this desk that's attached to the peninsula, it would create more space. I mean, this is an investor's wet dream. They can get so much per night for an Airbnb here. Of course, you know, they would have to operate it against the building's rules, but that hasn't stopped people in the past, right? Unfortunately. Nonetheless, even if you're not an Airbnb investor, you know, if you're a long-term rental investor, a studio like this will definitely garner equal to the price of a junior one bedroom elsewhere in downtown. You could probably rent this out when the rental market is hot for upwards of $24.50. I know that sounds ridiculous, but the building has shown history of that actually being possible. Pricing wise, this is a pretty expensive studio though, as you guys can see from the unit. It's listed for $555,000, which is a lot, even for a studio as good as this. You know, units, studios such as this one, we're selling for $540,000, $550,000, but that was in a different market. Now that the market has cooled down, even though things are picking up slightly into January 2024, still cooler conditions, I don't see this going for $555,000. All right, that was it for today's edition of the Toronto Real Estate Vlog. For more vlogs coming on this channel, subscribe for more, or for more market-oriented videos, market stats, market trends, buyer advice, home prices, and all that, subscribe for more as well, or you can find my contact information in the description box. Thank you for watching, stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.